General Daniel Domelevo this week expressed shock at the revelations from this documentary, and he questioned the internal auditing of the PPA. Have you also had cause to question the internal audit of the PPA?
Well, I think that we have cause to question systems and how the systems function, and our capacity or ability to flout rules or abuse rules. I mean, so the internal audit is one, but of many institutions. In fact, if you look at the various entities that brought those procurement requests to the PPE, the rationale behind choosing a particular method of procurement and not the other are all issues for questioning, are all issues that beats people's thinking, because the law is very clear on what qualifies one to choose one particular procurement method over the other, particularly in the case of the restricted tender. The law is very clear on the basis for which you will use restricted tender. I don't believe that all the 14 procurement that involved the TLD passes for any of those prescriptions that the law has prescribed. So what informed the decision for the procurement entity or the entity tender committee to even forward and request for restrictive tender? Beats anyone's imagination.
It beats everybody's imagination.
So the issue is that there are just a whole gamut of institutional and procedural failure that we gloss over. This thing had gone on over and over, and it will interest us all to know that it looks like practically all the problematic procurement had all gone through either it's a restricted tender, sole sourcing, or any of the exceptional procurement method.
Yep.
You know, the default is a competitive tender.
Yeah.
But for some reason, you may opt or request for approval to use restricted tender or not. But it looks like almost all the problematic
went through restricted tendering.
Exactly. And why is that? It's what beats anybody else's imagination. And so after all these questionable selection of method, if it comes out that, oh wow, ultimately there are other ulterior motive, then it but you see, I've been saying that it is not for nothing that the first function of the office of the special prosecutor was to investigate and prosecute procurement-related corruption. It means that it's a problem in this country.
Of course, we've established that.
It's a huge problem in this country. So why is it that it is still persisting to the extent that now even the head, or I say the gatesman, is
you tell me, because you at GII do a lot of research into this. Why is it still persistent?
System failure. It's simple. We just have system failures in our country. So you see, we have the laws. We pretend to be implementing the laws, and somehow, anyhow, people who seems to know more about the various regulations look out for gaps in the system or in the regulations and take advantage of it. And even when they are caught, it doesn't look like we have cracked the whip enough to deter people. So if you look at the fight against corruption, one of the critical things is to ensure that we prevent corruption. We are not doing enough to prevent corruption. We are doing a lot of lip servicing, a lot of talking, and a lot of pretense, in our quest to fight corruption. So people are not afraid. If you read the Anti-Corruption Action Plan, the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan, it says that we must make corruption a high risk and a low gain venture. But we've turned it the other way around. It has become a high gain and a low risk. And so everybody who gets the slightest opportunity wants to exploit.